Welcome back to Film Files. In today's file, we will be uncovering a Japanese psychological thriller film from 2010 titled The Insight Mill, 7-Day Death Game. Sit back, and let's dive in. 10 random people are being driven in a carpool consisting of 2 limo-size vans. There are 5 people in each van. And they are being driven to an isolated location. The backstory goes like this: Yuki is browsing some magazines at the local store. He is looking for a job in the classified pages. Then, Shoko approaches him and shows him a job opening on her phone that pays multiple times more than what may be found in the magazines. So, we are in the present as all 10 people have applied to this same job in question. The limo vans come to a stop, and they all get out. There is a single dome-shaped building in front of them, and they all get in. An automated female voice welcomes them and asks that they put their belongings in a locker. It also gives them a chance to walk away, but none do. They all proceed down a flight of stairs to underground quarters. Once they are inside, the big metal door is locked behind them. There is a dining table with lots of food, so they help themselves. There are also 10 figurines arranged in a circle at the center of this table. The contestants proceed to introduce themselves to each other, and once they are done, a robot hanging from the roof appears just as one of the figurines starts to speak. The robot, aka guard, projects a pre-recorded video of the rules of engagement, suggesting some quite strange scenarios like how they might be killed if they defy the bedtime rule and so on. The voice also points them to the keycards for their rooms and allows them some free time. After eating, they all go to the game room to wind down. Biyuru is helping Sawako with the dishes. Sawako is supposed to be an older housewife, and she admits she likes to profile people as a hobby. For instance, she is spot on about how Biyuru has a child she left behind and has scars on her hands because she never rolls up her sleeves, especially when doing dishes. Just then, Nishino thinks he recognizes Sawako as a disgraced nursery school teacher who abused a student. She denies it, but this revelation seems too close to home for Biyaro as if there is a connection. Afterward, the voice tells them it's bedtime, and they all retire to their rooms. Yuki finds a strange box in his room and opens it with his key card. There is a weapon and a strange note inside. He dismisses it and goes to bed. The following day, Shoko is standing over him but then hears Biyuru scream from the hallway. Nishino is sprawled on the floor, dead with multiple gunshot wounds when they get there. As they gather around the dead body in surprise, Iway arrives and laughs out loud because, as he says, the paranoia game is on. Yuki, on his part, freaks out and is seen running over to the main door and banging it repeatedly. Osaku tries to calm him down, but they hear yet another scream. On getting there, they find that the robot has picked up Nishino's lifeless body and is moving it somewhere else. They follow closely behind into a circular room with 8 human-sized holes. The robot dumps the body in one of them, and it is promptly shut. They now realize the holes are meant for them if they too die. In other words, the deaths will not stop until just 2 of them are left. Osaku then calls for a vote as the voice directed earlier. Iway is accused of the crime, and they vote 4-3 to send him into jail. The robot promptly picks him up and tosses him into a cell, to everyone's horror. Later on, Yuki has a bath to douse the tension he feels. When he gets out, he suspects something is amiss and tries opening his box again. He is surprised to find a gun instead of the sharp poker before. Someone has switched his weapon to set him up. Now, they are all gathered to discuss the way forward. One of the figurines announces that Osaku gets the detective reward for solving the crime of Nishino's death and fingering Iway as the culprit. His money is doubled as such. Later on, Yuki is alone with Shoko and he seizes the opportunity to confess to her about how his weapon was switched to a gun. Just then, Wakana interrupts them. Yuki then joins up with Madame Sawako, who thinks Shoko might be the mystery killer, and she has her reasons for thinking that way. Yuki tries to defend Shoko just as Sawako searches her room and Moki eavesdrops on their conversation. Apparently, Samako likes mystery novels. That night, Yuki checks the gun cartridge and realizes that it was never used. Just as Samako finishes reading her novel and leaves her room to get yet another one, but she is shot in the head from behind by a nail driver. And Biyuru is standing right there with the tool in her hand. The next morning, everyone finds the body, and Wakana freaks out. Actually, she and Osaku are an item, and he tries to calm her. Also, Moki points an accusing finger at Shoko over what he heard last night. Wakana and Osaku second him, but Yuki comes to her defense. Ando, a much older contestant, tries to step in but is also accused. This is when he comes clean by saying his son died in a place just like this where he was promised a highly paid job to participate in an experiment. It lasted 7 days too. That night, Ando meets up with Yuki and suggests they start a nightly patrol. He figures the robot or guard only sweeps in a clockwise manner around the facility, so they ought to be out of its way. Yuki and Shoko take the first shift. But at some point, the guard makes a U-turn, and they are lucky to avoid it as they hide. Biyuru then shows up for a shift, but Wakana, who is supposed to join her, is with Osaku, her boyfriend, in the burial room. They are making out, and she excuses herself to get on her shift. Once she leaves, the roof collapses on Osaku, killing him. They all rush to his side, and Wakana swears revenge. Not long afterward, Yuki and Ando discover Moki has the same remote used to control the roof in question. They confront him, and he pulls out his weapon, which is a crossbow, to defend himself. But Wakana desperately steps in and axes him to death before cutting her neck. We then briefly see a slice of the viewership watching the experiment on their smartphones. Back inside the facility, Biyuru is preparing some tea for everyone. You can see her spiking it with a vial of something. Then she serves them. Yuki notices the scars on her hand but keeps his curiosity till later. Once he sees Shoko off that night, he goes over to Biyuru's room to ask her about the scars. It's not long before she shows her true colors. Yuki slumps to the ground because of the spiked tea. And Biyuru acknowledges she was the one who killed Sawako. Yuki drags himself away when Biyuru is distracted. She follows him into the hall to finish him off. But the robot guard appears, and after warning both of them to get into their rooms, it fires. Meanwhile, Yuki has hurriedly entered his room, and so Biyuru is killed. The following day, which is the 5th day, those left analyze the situation. Yuki has figured it all out. Nishino was brought in to foment suspicion amongst them. And so, the game of paranoia began as they cancelled each other out one by one. The voice then acknowledges Yuki's solution to the mystery and doubles his money. Yuki wants none of it and gives up his weapon just as Ando does the same. The 6th day comes around, and they are determined to trust each other and not do what they are expected to do, which is to kill one another. It's a long day. The 7th day comes, and when Yuki wakes up, there is no one around. He stumbles upon the open door of the prison where Iway is supposed to be and is attacked. Meanwhile, Ando has faked his death in order to see things through to the end. As Iway and Yuki struggle, Shoko appears and points the gun at Iway. Iway is a serial killer in real life. He seizes the gun and shoots at Yuki, but it backfires, killing him. Then the main doors open as the voice says it's game over. An official hands over the bag of money to Yuki just as Shoko confesses that she was planted in the game to improve viewership. Ando emerges from his fake death and joins Yuki as they head back to the city on foot. Yuki throws the bag of money to the side as he limps away. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and hit that notification button to open more files like this.